G'day and welcome back. Today I've got a Kriesler 11-7. A viewer contacted me about this. It belonged to his wife's grandfather. He tells me it's been sitting in a box in Sydney for many years. So at some point they picked it up in Sydney, brought it back to Queensland, and he saw some of my videos and he contacted me and said, can I fix it? He's only up the road. He's about 15 minutes up the road. I've already done one of these models and it was very early in my radio repairing hobby career. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. We've done all this stuff to death, small radios. I'll get it going. I'll clean it up a bit. I'm not going to bore you to death. We'll keep the video as short as we can. I do have some bigger projects that I want to do, and some of them might be pretty interesting, I think. So I'll get this one finished up and back to the gentleman, and he and his wife can enjoy it. These were made by Kriesler, and their marketing ploy at the time was triple throat. And all they ever did, they got one speaker, but they had 3 apertures for the sound to come out. It was a bit of a marketing ploy. It probably didn't make a lot of difference to the sound. These have got a speaker and it's on an angle here, so any dirt that's in here goes through and sits in the speaker and then works its way in between the magnet and the coil. That's looking down on the speaker, and the cloth seems to be intact, so maybe it stopped all the dust falling into the speaker. Now, dial looks in good shape. These are the wrong knobs, so there's something wrong with that one. That's the tuning, I think. I'll flip it over, we'll take the bottom off and have a look inside. There's 4 screws holding the bottom on. I'll just take them out. These radios were called sealed radios, and when they built them they used to put some sort of seal over either one or all of the screws, I'm not sure which, and they would supply the dealer with the seal so if they opened it they could reseal it. And that was to give the dealer peace of mind so that he knew that nobody had been inside the radio. It was another marketing angle from Kriesler. Okay, that should lift off. There we go. Well, it looks like someone's done a fair bit of work to this. It's got the Phillips mustard caps in it. So, I'm not sure what that one is. There's another one there. Yeah, they're all over. The electrolytics have been replaced as well. I've had issues with these ones before where they just fail. Now that wonky tuning shaft, it's just the nuts come loose. I'll tighten that up, that'll be okay. To get the chassis out, I've just got to undo 4 screws. I think that'll come out. I'm taking the speaker out. This case is huge. The speaker looks alright on this one. It hasn't been eaten, so that's good. Let's have a look at this. The chassis is great. It's no rust on it. I reckon that'll clean up really nice. I'll go and find the circuit diagram for this, but I've got to find out what version of the model it is. Now, it's a little confusing because this is an early model dial. The Kriesler later moved this band here, the shortwave band, to the bottom and moved all this up. So it's got an early model glass in it. It's got the early model 6v6 valve, but it's got a transformer in here that says October 1949. So the glass and the valve would put it about 47, but the transformer says 49. So I'm guessing maybe the transformer was changed at some time. Anyway, I'll go and get the circuit diagram for the model with the 6v6 in it. One thing I noticed straight away was there's a wire stuck in the top of the tuning gang for the oscillator. That shouldn't be there, of course. It's just coming out of this gap here and going up there. I think it's the earth wire or the antenna. I think it's the earth wire. So I guess somebody's had a look in here and thought, there's a wire hanging there and there's a spare spot to put it. I'll throw it in there. I've had a good look around. I can't see any problems with this. Now, the owner told me he'd plugged it in, turned it on, and he couldn't get any stations or something. I'm not sure what he said now, but that means that it's not going to blow up. So I'm going to put some power on it and see what it does. I'm going to leave that in there because that's going to stop the oscillator working. When I power it up, I'll take it out and see if it fixes the radio. I'll put this on dim bulb, and we've got 240 volts coming in. I'll put some power on, see what happens. Nothing. I'll switch it on, then put some power on. There we go. Everything looks normal. Getting some noise there. There should be the ABC, the local government station here. Now, of course, I'll turn that down. It sounds like I might be on shortwave. Ah, there it is.
More aligned with what you believe a secure, happy relationship looks like. that would be my advice. And also that there does have to be that little bit of a spark.
Yeah, it works.
But
So even with that on there,
people nowadays in navigating something like that is to look for
still
that
working.
person where what you want tends.
Oh, there you go. It's just not making contact. It's only pulling 23, 24 watts, and yeah, it's got 225 volts, so it's not pulling a lot out of there, so I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'll try another channel, another station. Oh. And the volume control needs a bit of a spray, but that's all right. That's working very well. The dial is a little bit out. I can see it's not lining up where it should, but that's working fine. It's working so well, there's not much I'm going to do to this. I'll take it out in the morning, I'll clean all this up. It's pretty late now. I've got to fix the dial string. That's not turning properly, it's slipping. I'll have a look underneath and go through and make sure everything is okay. Check all the resistors that I can. Check some voltages, make sure it's all working within its normal parameters. Clean up the case and put it back. I'm out in the workshop with the radio. I'll blow it off with the compressed air as I always do. Then I'll go around with the brush, and I've got some starting fluid here to clean it. I think this will just about wipe off with some soap and water. I'll just use the air and just blow a bit off and just see how easy it's going to come up. I'll spray a bit of this starter fluid on there and just see what it's going to do. Oops. Here it may have bits of surface rust on it, so it's not going to come up as well as I'd hoped. I'll just try a bit back here where it's been a bit more protected. Yeah, it's not much better. All right. Well, it's disappointing. I'll just sit here and clean it up as best I can, and I'll come back in a minute and show you how it looks. Well, that's it. I've spent a considerable amount of time trying to clean this. I've worn my fingers to the nub. It just won't clean up properly. I thought it was just going to wipe off, and it hasn't. It's got something on it. I don't know what it is. It's not tar or cigarette tar or anything. I'm not sure where it is. Maybe it was in a factory somewhere. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's settled on top. Anything underneath is okay, but whatever it is settled on top. Anyway, it's fine. You know, it's in a case. It doesn't really matter. I'm back inside again. I'll just have a look at this loose shaft here. And I should be able to get a spanner on there and a socket on here. Let's fix that, that's good. This is the tone control, and the back of it there rotates, the whole switch rotates. So I've got to try and tighten that. There's a nut between the dial plate and the chassis here. There's also a nut in here and one over here. So I think I need to tighten that nut, but I need to undo the nut on the front to pull it back enough so I can tighten that up. Now I've got a spanner here. Oh, that's quite loose. Oh, okay. All right, well, we'll just undo it then. Right, I can finally see the nut. Now hopefully I can just tighten that nut up. Alright, this isn't working. I can't hold that nut and do that other nut up. I don't know if there's a locator in there somehow. I'll take the whole thing out. Okay, there we go. If I undo that nut, I can see what's going on. There's no locating mechanism there, no pins or anything, or dowels, so it's just friction holding it there. So I'll just put it back in and tighten it up. I can't do that nut up tight because I can't get onto this back nut here. So I'm going to use two nuts on the shaft here on the boss, and I'll just tighten them together, and I can use them to hold it while I do up the other one. I'll do it up. That'll do. Good. I'll take off the two lock nuts here, and then I'll be able to refit the control. I've put it back together, and yeah, that's working fine. Good, that's done. Now it's time to have a look under the bonnet or the hood if you're from North America. I'm going to replace these electrolytics. These Phillips poly caps are fine. There's a couple more there, look very similar. I'm not sure what brand they are, but they should be okay as well. Now I did manage to get a schematic. Under this model number of 11-7, there's about 21 different versions and they swap and change components around willy-nilly. So the first version came out with a 6v6. They went away from that, tried 2 other valves, then went back to the 6v6 3 or 4 years later. It's all a matter of supply. They just couldn't get parts they needed, I guess, and they had to use whatever was around. I can't find the exact diagram for this radio, so between them all I'll be able to do something. So there's another one there. Apart from the capacitor, there's something else that needs to be done. The wiring off the transformer is rubber and it's falling apart. So I've got a couple of ways to do it. I can pull the transformer out and just put some new insulation on, which is what I normally do. I was wondering about perhaps just undoing one end of the wire, putting some heat shrink on and shrinking it down onto the original rubber. I'm not 100% sure I like that idea, so perhaps I'll probably pull the transformer out and just replace the insulation. So I'll just clear all the junk out of the way. The transformer's out and the wire's just cracking up. So I'll replace them. I have some insulation here. This is just household wiring insulation. It usually fits pretty well and it's rated for the high voltage, so that's a pretty good substitute. So I'll just remove the old stuff. It's not hard. Now I only have red and black colour. I could use green, but that would be ground, so I won't use that. There we go. Just replace his name tag so I know where he goes. So that's one done. I'll just do the rest and come back. We'll put it back in the radio. I've replaced all the insulation and it's come up quite well. The secret is to make sure the wire is straight when you're pushing it on. If it's got little kinks in it, it just gets too hard and you can't push it on. Something I like to do is just put a little dab of hot glue to hold the insulation in place. It's not necessary, it's just something that I do. I'll let that cool off, flip it over, do the other side and put it back in the radio. Right, the transformer's back in, the wires are all connected up and it's come up very nice. It only took an hour to do this, it's not a big job. Before I said I don't know why I glue these in, but it stops the insulation moving away on the wire because it's not attached to the wire, it's just sitting on it, and it just makes it easier to connect, you don't lose the ends. As well as that, I changed the capacitor. I had the wires undone anyway. There's a couple of resistors up here I did. They were out of spec. The rest of them are okay. The only thing left to do now is change these 3 electrolytics. I think this one and this one are probably grid bias electrolytics, and this will be a main filter capacitor. So I'll see what they are. 24, and this will be 25 or something. So that's, no, that one's 10, I think, 25 volts. These are usually 25 microfarad, I'm not sure why that's a 10. I'll spin him around. Yeah, 25 by 25. Alright. I should have replacement ones of these. I'll put them in and I'll come back and we'll test the radio again, make sure it still works. I've replaced this cap and the one over here as well. I also replaced these 2 capacitors because the leads were too short. I wanted to rearrange this so this capacitor wasn't just floating in midair. So I put new ones here with the longer lead. Here's the casualty list, not too bad. These mustard caps are okay. I wouldn't rely on these old electrolytics, so they've been replaced. I'm going to flip it over, we'll plug it in and see if it still works. I've turned the radio over, I've put the valves in. I've got the power on, it's on dim bulb still.
Playing for the names that are on our chest, representing our people, and it's great.
There are more than 140 teams competing, and there's no shortage of passion or skill.
In 1970, the Redfern All Blacks, along with La Perouse, became...
it's all a bit pointillistic, really. And as you said, he shows up at his first job.
All right, that's working all right. I'll put the full power on. I think it's doing all right there.
So there was no sort of sense of the hovering presence of government or the welfare board.
That's working fine. Not a very good time at night to try the radio out. There's a lot of noise and gets a lot of noise from the house. So it's working though, and that's all I'm worried about. I will turn it over, check all the voltages, make sure they're running okay. And I need to do a quick alignment. I'm not going to bore you to death with the alignment. I'll just check it quickly and make sure it's okay. I know the pointer isn't in the right place, so hopefully that's all that needs to be done. And then I'll have a go at the case. And the case is missing its little Kriesler badge. I was going to try and remake it. I've done it once before, but I've got better materials to do it with now. So this might be a bit of fun. All right, I'll flip it over, check the voltages. I'll come back and we'll just very quickly check the alignment. I've checked all the voltages and they're all perfect, except for the grid bias on this output valve. This has got cathode biasing. There's the bias resistor there. And it's reading 2.8. So that's all the bias we've got. It's supposed to be 12. Now the resistor I'm reading on my meter is 160 ohms. The manual says 150, but there was a mod later on to increase that to 350 ohms. So what I might do is I'll cut this one out of the circuit and I'll put in a 350 and we'll see what we get. I've put a new resistor in there. It's just warming up and we'll see what it is now. I really can't see it's going to bring it up that much. Yeah, so it's just settling now on 4.5 volts. So, but that's not enough. I'll check the plate voltage, make sure that's right. It's supposed to be 225. It's exactly 225. Here's the screen. I think that was a couple of volts higher. 240 that's supposed to be. Yeah, 237. So the only thing left is maybe change the valve. I'll change the valve and see if that does anything. I've replaced the valve with another second-hand valve, admittedly, but we'll see what that comes up at. And we've got 9.7, so it's supposed to be 12. That's a lot closer. So I will reconnect everything. I'll put in the new resistor, I think, and I think we might leave it at that. I'll check it again once I've done it all. It's all connected up again. We'll try that. 10, 11, that'll do. Or 10.5, sorry. All right, that's good. So all that's fine. I think I'll do the alignment. All right, I've set up the radio for the alignment. And same old deal. I'm just going to do these two IF cans first. I've got the generator on 455 and it's feeding a signal into the top of the mixer valve here. The generator's on minimum output. I have to leave the sound on. It's a bit difficult to separate the wires on the speaker, so I'll just leave it going. You won't be able to see it very well, but the top of this screw here is broken off and it looks deformed. I don't know what's happened to it. Anyway, I'll have to use a pair of pliers to adjust that one. I'll just turn the volume up till we get sort of halfway up the meter there. That'll do. I'll start on the bottom one here. Okay, that was perfect. This other one here. Once again, it's spot on. And I'll try one of the top ones. No, that's fine too. So I probably don't even need to turn this one. Now, it's not going to like that. I'll see what happens. Didn't like the pliers on it, but the pliers weren't working, so I filed that flat, that little bit that was sticking up, and I'll use this end of the adjuster and that'll fit on there. There we go. I think that's about it. It's a very, very tight, very hard to turn. All right, that's it. As usual, I will check those all again and I'll come back, we'll do the RF. Now, to start the RF alignment, first thing we do is set the pointer, which I've already done, and there it is there, it's perfectly aligned. Then we come up here to 600. There's the antenna medium wave adjusting slug inside the antenna coil, and that's the oscillator coil. We adjust that through this hole and a screwdriver. I have the generator on 600. I'll turn the volume up. That'll do. I'll just adjust it. We'll see if we get any. Oh yeah. Okay, so it's out. So I'll line the pointer up again. Alright, I'll adjust the oscillator till we line it up. Okay. Just turn it down a little. Wow. Turn down a bit more. That's it. Alright, now the oscillator and the scale are aligned on 600. Now just peak the antenna coil and it should align with the oscillator at 600. There we go. Okay, that's it there. Perfect. So I'll wind the pointer up to 1500. And there it is there. Alright, I've got the generator on 15. I'm not getting anything. I'll just move this until I find it. Wow. I'll just turn that down. That's a long way out. Now, there's 3 trimmers up here, and there's one here. This is a fixed one. And I'm pretty sure this is the oscillator for the medium wave. So this is fixed. They don't expect you to adjust this normally. Just looking at the dial, we've got too much capacitance. So this has got too much capacitance on it. I can wind some windings off this. This is all it is. It's a wire down the middle with a wire wrapped around. You just wind it off, cut it to the right length and change the capacitance. Other than that, I can put in an adjustable capacitor. Now if I touch that, it should change the tone, yeah. So I should be able to retune that. Yeah, there it is there. Okay. So that's definitely it. If I can find the end of the wire on it, oops, it is there I think. There it is. So I should be able to pull that away. Yeah, it's changing it. And we're getting closer. Not sure if this is going to work. I'm not going to have any wire left. As I said, worst comes to worst, I'll just put an adjustable capacitor in there. Now why this has changed, I don't know. Perhaps another capacitor in there has changed its value. Yeah, I'm going to end up with virtually nothing on here. A little bit more, we're nearly there. Let's take a little bit more off. I'll just check with the meter. Yeah, that's 15, and what's the scale say? Alright, from dead on that's on 15. I'm not sure how it's coming out in the camera. It's probably a little bit out. But that's perfect now. I'm going to go back to 600. I'll see what it looks like at 600. I've got the generator at 600 and it's coming up to 600. Wow, that looks pretty close. Perfect on the 600 mark here. I'll check this antenna coil again and just make sure it's okay. Yeah, that's it there. Okay, I'll leave that. So back to 1500. Alright, back on 15. There we go. I've got the generator on 15. I'll turn the volume up. There we go. And I think this one adjusts the top end of the antenna coil. There it goes. Alright, that'll do. So that's the AM alignment done. I've cut that bit of wire off this capacitor. I'm not 100% sure that I should have done it like this. There's probably some component somewhere that's drifted a bit of mica or something and it's upset that, but I'm happy to leave it like it is. It'll be fine. All right, the next thing to do is check the shortwave. There's 12, that's about the middle of the scale, 12 megacycles. So if I line that up there, I've got the generator on 12. I'll put it on shortwave. There we go. Just turn it up a bit. Now this should be the adjustment for it. Turn that down. I'll use a ceramic driver. Turn it down again. And that's about it. Now here's the antenna trimmer, so I'll just see if I can tweak that a bit. Alright, that'll do. Not worried about shortwave, but that's fine. I just want to test the radio, see how well it lines up with what I've done. The first station here is 612, that's dials on 600, so if I go up, I'll turn it up a bit, and there's 610, should be just after it. There it is. So it's perfect.
Make it more transparent.
The next one is 693, I think. So this coming up to 90. Perfect again. So it looks good. I'll try something up the other end of the dial. I'm going to try and tune into 4BC. I can't get it very well here, but we should be able to hear something. Now 4BC has moved slightly, but it is 11:16, I think. So coming up to 11, it's 10. There it is. The spread on the dial seems to be pretty good. It's actually still on dead on BC, so maybe that hasn't moved from its original position. So let's run it down to QG, which is here, which is Queensland Government. It used to be the main government station, but they've moved it. No, that'll be slightly out. That's okay. I don't know what the frequency is for that. The point is, it's tracking perfectly. It's good. All right, I'm going to put this aside for a while, and I'll start working on the case. And I showed earlier in the video, this badge is completely missing off this radio. The one I've got here is off my old Beehive radio, and I made a new one using some Play-Doh, which worked out pretty well. Now, as in the Beehive, it's missing the little dot on the eye in Kriesler. It also this is just loose, and it needs a little stroke on the K there to come up here. So what I thought I'd do is I'll try and recreate it. I did this last time. This is a toothpick. I've just sort of taken a little bit off here, and I can put that in there. I'll cut it off, and that'll make the eye up. I'll have to shape, I might use the toothpick, just shape it, square it off a little bit, and replace the K, and I'll probably just put it on with a little bit of super glue or something to hold it there. And then I'm going to mould it with something different. I'm not going to use Play-Doh again. That really wasn't very good. This time I'm going to use this plastic modelling clay. It's called Oyumayu, and it comes in little bricks like this, and you just heat these in very hot water. It becomes pliable. You push it over whatever you want to mould, let it cool off, and it gives you a reproduction of the mould. I'll heat this up, push it down on the word Kriesler. I should get a reproduction in here. I've got some pouring plastic mould solution, and that should make a little replica of that word. But first I'll make up these little missing bits, and I'll come back and we'll make up the mould. I've shaped the toothpick to make an eye and a K. I've glued that on with a bit of super glue. It's too big, both of those are too big, but that's okay. I want to make them bigger, and then I'll file them down to the right proportion. I have my little stick of Oyumayu in some boiling water. It was boiling, and I'll just take it up and put it on top of the... Oops. Whoa. I'm going to use a board to push it down so that it's flat. Now I guess you just leave it there till it cools down. Right, that's been 5 minutes, I suppose. Oh, it's gone quite hard. There you go. Well, that's not too bad, is it? It's really good. I need to go along and just clean up a few things. Where the dot is sitting on the eye, I need to make sure there's enough plastic there so the eye will be supported. And I need to clean up where that stick goes into the K. But apart from that, I reckon it looks pretty good. So I'll fix that up, and I'll mix up some 2-part plastic mix. Now I've got my mould here ready to go. I have this 2-part mix here. You mix it up by weight, and it's called smooth cast, and that'll come out clear, and when I put it in the cures, it'll be white. I have some scales here. These only measure in 2-gram lots, so they're not terribly accurate for this sort of thing, but if I put about 10 grams in there, Now 16. That's settled down to 14, so hopefully I can put another 14. Something like that. Now all I have to do is mix this and it will go clear. You can see it in there. And I've got a pipette here. I don't know if this will work or not. Oh yeah, easy. Okay. Alright, let's see what we can do here. I have a little plastic scraper here. I'll just scrape off the excess. Alright, that looks alright. It'll cure. It takes about 5 minutes to cure, and we'll have a look then. Now I've got to see if I can get it out in one piece. There it is. There it is. It's pretty good. It's had a bubble there. I saw the bubbles after I'd let it sit for a few minutes, and I thought I should have popped them. I forgot to do that. So you're supposed to go around with a toothpick and just pull the bubbles out, and I didn't do that, so I've ended up with a hole there. Apart from that, it looks good. This area here, that's the dot, it'll clean up all right, and the K, I will just trim that off and clean it up, and that looks good too. Now, whether I persevere with this one or just mix another one up and make another one, that's probably the easiest way of doing it. I've done another one and it's come up really nice. There's no bubbles in there. Yeah, very nice. So I need to get all this excess plastic off here, trim up the little bits that I put on there and make them the right shape and size. I'll then give it a coat of red paint and that'll be ready to put on. I put the base in the trough to give it a scrub. Very hard to get some of that waxy whatever material was that was on it. I put the case in the trough as well and wet the fabric to try and get the glue to release, but the fabric was no good, so I have to replace that. I took it out to the workshop and just polishing it with some automotive polishes and finish it off with some Brasso. It's not coming out very well, unfortunately. I have the case inside now and it has a tortoiseshell grill that goes on the front here, and this one's broken. It's broken and fallen out, so I need to glue this back together. Now it's broken in 3 places, there and there, so my plan is to glue it back together. I've got some clear plastic here. It's got the protective coating on this, but it's clear underneath, and I will glue those on there just to make sure it all stays together. I'll use some Loctite gel adhesive because there is a bit of a gap in some of this stuff. So if I put a bead along here, oops. Alright, that should do it. Alright, I'll just hold that for a minute or two until it sets. Alright, that's been a minute. I should be able to let it go. Okay, I'll let that harden off for a couple of hours, then I can glue these on here. It's been a couple of hours and for some reason it's gone white. I guess that'll just scrape off. Alright, I hope it doesn't go like that if I put a doubling piece of plastic on it. So I'll just scrape off the excess super glue. I'll do the other end as well. If you're worried about my finger, there's a little ridge there, so I'm not going to plough into it, I hope. I'm cleaning it up with a bit of isopropyl alcohol and it's taking that white off, I think. I think it's just dried on super glue. But I'm having second thoughts about putting that doubler on because if it gets gaps in there and goes white on me, it's going to look awful. So this is pretty strong in the way it is, and then it's going to be all glued into the radio, so I don't think I really need to put any doublers in it at all. I'm going to leave it like that. I'll go and clean this white off somehow and clean up the back here, and then it can be glued straight onto the radio. Now I went out last night and glued this grill in, and I also put my little label on there, or sorry, badge I suppose you'd call it. We'll see what it looks like. Oh, there you go. That's That's come up nice. I was a bit worried about this grill, but I think it'll be okay. The little badge has come up very nice as well. I also put some new grill cloth in here, and gee, that looks good. That matches perfectly. The case was really dull, and I couldn't get a good shine on it, so I've put Canaba wax on it, and that always does a good job. Now, where the tape's been, and I cleaned around here with wax remover and around the Kriesler sign, so I've got to go back and just re-wax that. I'll come back, and then we can put the chassis in. All right, the case is polished. I've just got it upside down on my bench here, and I'm going to fit the speaker back in. I cleaned the speaker up, and I cleaned up the baffle board, so that looks good. The speaker was in very good condition. All right, that's mounted in, that's good. So I just dropped the chassis in now. So now just the 4 screws to put in. That'll hold the chassis in the case. All right, the screws are tight. I just need to put the base on. Okay, the 4 screws are done up, the base is on. I need some little felts to put in here as feet, so I'll go down the hardware later and get some. I'll put the knobs on. These are not the right knobs. These knobs are what were on the radio when I got it, so I'm just going to put them back. And I don't have any of the correct ones, so these will have to do. So apart from the little feet I've got to put on later, it's all done. I'll turn it on, we'll see how well it works. Now, I'm not totally taken with the looks of these ones, but as a radio they usually work pretty well, they're pretty good. All right.
Things can change. The Immigration Minister saying that distinguished and talented applicants will now be considered under sort of new obligations under Australian legislation. So if your profession requires you to leave the country frequently, so long as you do starry things,
into, and how are they dealing with it if they are?
Yeah, I'm getting some feedback now.
Yeah, look, it works really well. Really good performers, really well designed chassis, and good radio. Now, the case came up pretty good. As I said, it was dulled off, and the Canaba wax has brought it back. It looks good. I've seen other people use linseed oil to soak into it and bring back the shine, so if you want to try that. But overall, I think it's come up pretty good. The little Kriesler sign was a bit of fun. So I'll just put it back on another station. Alright, I think it's time to go back to its owner, and hopefully they'll take care of it and get a lot of use out of it. Now, this was a bit of fun for me, particularly making the badge, because I needed to get that technique sorted. So what I've come up with seems to work pretty well. No doubt down the track I'll get better at that too. So overall, I'm really happy with the outcome of the radio. I hope the owners enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I hope you can join me for my next radio adventure.